Well, hello everyone. My name's Nick. Uh, what's my background? Very eclectic. I'd say that I focus mainly in growth marketing, operations sales. Worked for a guy by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk, his assistant in New York, and yeah, I'm really just fascinated by like what makes people tick, how that translates to business. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Kanal, and my background's in finance, but I've been doing market years at VMware. And for the past 6 months, I've been really getting into AI, learning more about everything, what it is, how people are applying industries and in different functions, and starting to learn how to build agents. Be here and learn more from you guys during this conversation as
Absolutely.
I'm Alex Jacqueline. I've been working on AI for a long time. When I was 17 years old, I um, told a friend of mine that I'm going to be working on AI, and he was like, "Why? This is a problem that people have been attacking for decades, and it just goes nowhere." Um, so I won the award for the best PhD dissertation in AI many years later, and after that, I was really concerned about what's going to be the impact, like what are going to be the second-order effects of AI. And I've been working on how to fix the problems caused by AI. And now that AI is popular, um, I can finally fix these problems. And um, it's exciting.
That's not among your summary. I mean, of course, it's noteworthy, but I think that there are you did scoop over a very important one, which is your involvement with the development of egg. Do you want to share about that?
Yeah, so I was interested in data compression in high school as a kid, and managed to persuade the school to allow me to do some research on data compression. But afterwards, I learned data compression, and I noticed that a bunch of people are getting really unhappy about Unisys, that was a big tech company today, suing developers who made um, image software that was using GIF. So we were thinking, well, GIF isn't particularly good anyway. We can do something better. And a bunch of us online got together, and we created a proposal that's now called PNG, or PNG. And it's the #1 image format online. Yeah, I worked on that when I was 17 years old. But what's interesting is that we never met. We never met in person. It was all
Oh,
done
wow.
remote
Back, how many years ago was this?
many years ago.
Wow, that's impressive. Because everyone was doing everything in person back then, I would imagine. So that's really impressive that you guys were able to do remotely then.
Yeah, but it was this crazy team. Like the guy who wrote the Wikipedia software
Hmm.
was on the team.
it's
Wow,
insane.
The
that's
guy
insane.
who wrote the um, JPEG software
Hmm.
that everyone was using and Postgres SQL software was on the team. The guy who wrote the zip was on the team. The guy who wrote unzip was on the team. The guy who was the lead mission engineer for the Spirit and Opportunity missions
Hmm.
was on the team.
That's a very
Can I
diverse team.
can I ask you something? So from that group of individuals, right? You're among incredibly great company, right? You're probably being put. I mean, especially at 17, I can only imagine, right? Like you're being probably being pushed beyond your limits,
Hmm.
and you're just learning so much. Like, what did you learn and soak up like from those individuals? Like, there had to be like some like key like through lines of
Yeah.
these like these people or contributions to like technology.
I mean, it was an amazing team. And like at the time, many of them have not really done all of this stuff. Like much of this work happened afterward.
Oh, interesting.
But at the time, it was just this incredible um, high level of excellence, high quality of communication, clarity, long-term thinking was absolutely fascinating.
Hmm.
think you bring up like communication was the one thing that mentioned as excellent. Talking about AI, and yes, I'd love to hear from you guys. Like, how do you think AI is impacting our ability to communicate well? I recently saw an article study that was done that people who are using ChatGPT, Gemini, are using their brains are a lot less engaged while they're using those programs versus how they would have been using their brain otherwise. Right? And I think that happens to communication as well because when we write, we're communicating that. And now we're asking ChatGPT, all these models to write for us, even our LinkedIn posts and all the million LinkedIn comments that we see are being written by these AI models. So is that going to excellent communication that back?
AI is fundamentally a glorified copy paste,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, people who overuse copy paste get their brains atrophied.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like if you know what you're doing, copy paste is going to help you. Because really, like all of these LLMs, like what they really do is they kind of copy from the body of human knowledge and paste into your problem or interest that you're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you think about from a data perspective. Usually, how I try to contextualize some of these innovations is really just like what's the human behavior? Like, what are people doing now? And how does that show up on, particularly in social media, right? Because that's kind of a lot of my world. Um, the amount of tweets or posts on X now that are replies that say, summarize this for me at Grok, right? You basically see it on every single post.
Yeah.
So it begs the question, what is the experience of social media? Like, what is this distillation, right? You're getting real time feedback in real time. You're able to see it's one thing to like use ChatGPT and like people are using it, right? That's kind of isolated. It's not really put on display. You're seeing the broad impact of that and how people are actually consuming information. It's glaringly obvious that
Yeah.
it's happening everywhere.
But is it positive or negative? How do you see it?
That's a great question. Well, look, I mean, I think when you think about adoptions of new technology, there's probably things I'm not even taking into consideration here holistically, but I try to make it very simple. Again, like how are people developing and what's the behavior, right? When you look at literacy rates with young children now sharply declining,
Yeah.
and among other reasons, I mean, of course, COVID had a big reason with that, right? With all these different, the devices and everything and all these different things, right? But there's an undeniable shift in how people, like for example, university at UT, they're starting to now have courses where they're just doing video and audio. They're not having their students read.
That's dangerous.
That's just they're converting the entire course to be around this medium now, and that's a great. It goes back to your question though: is that good or bad? Time will tell. I mean, I don't know. I think that I find myself. I mean, I don't naturally like to read, right? But okay, here's a great question for you both. When's the last time a piece of literature has hit the mainstream so drastically that it has made like a marked impact on society? I can name a couple. Harry Potter,
I'm a fan.
right? Of course. Um, and then really the last one that like really really hit, I think weirdly enough is Luigi Mangioni's manifesto.
Yeah. The
And
Tiger King during, well, that's more of like the video element of it.
well,
But
of
during
course,
COVID, right?
yes,
It was huge.
yeah, but like written pieces,
Written pieces,
yeah.
yeah.
It's just all it's all I lay this all out as far as just like other ways that we can dig into different pockets of the conversation. But it's just what do I think? Time will tell.
I mean, why would you read a novel when you can watch it?
Well, I think it's a good question. I think that there are there are nuances to how our brain works that I can't pretend to understand to work specific parts. Like for example, like when you're letting your ability to focus on a specific task, I'm sure you could translate that into other parts of your life and find different pockets to like build that focus. But reading works with another part of your brain, and you may or may not see the impact of that across your broader work, right? But you could look at societies that are illiterate. The way they dream is different. There's been they the way they contextualize shapes and sound. It's all wired differently, right? So when we're thinking about the progression of our society broadly, we have to also be thinking about, well, how is this going to impact certain sectors of the population with the bell curve? I mean, like, everything's a bell curve, right? Certain individuals are going to be with less rigor around teaching the basic skills of reading and writing and writing out calculus and doing the reps of these things. Uh, we don't know all the impacts that we'll have, and I can't pretend to say it's going to be negative or positive. But there are things that are to be considered that are big things, really big things that if we poke and push, we'll just have to see the consequence.
I mean, a typical book, for example, book I've been reading will take me about 14 hours. And
How many pages?
Oof,
Interesting.
maybe like.
You're far better than me. I'm like.
Yeah. Well, I have the Kindle, right? So I don't have the actual book.
Okay.
So I never look at how many pages. It just tells me like 14 hours, depending on what my speed is. Anyway, so the way that I would answer your questions is like we're wired to look. We're always looking for patterns, right? Whether it's humans or animals, they have different advantages in certain senses, and they're able to predict or look at different patterns than we are as humans. And when we're reading, we're able to really dive deeper into that reasoning of what the author is talking about. When we're watching something, it's a 2-hour version of that deep conversation and deep dialogue that happens in a book for 13 hours. So our understanding of the topic is much more narrow when we're watching something for 2 hours versus reading something for 14 hours.
You remind me of another famous Canadian, which is Marshall McLuhan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was talking about how, probably the most famous thing that everyone knows is the medium's the message. So he said there is hot media that just push information into you, and there is cooler media that allow you to define your own opinion. And he was saying television is a hot medium. It's just like influencing people. But reading and conversation is a cool medium where not just that you have time to develop your own understanding, but you can also like affect what the message is in conversation with other people. So he's still incredibly relevant. In many ways, what he predicted about the world in terms of like how mass media are going to change people, it's even more accurate when you look at the impact of, say, the internet.
There's actually a great conversation around the news. So back in the day when news they used to spend much more time on like 3 or 4 pieces, and they would dive deeper. And now when we look at the across the various media, 30-second clips of something, seeing 5 minutes of a dialogue, a conversation about something that's happening in the world. And our understanding of the world, while it has broadened in the sense that technology has brought us together, it has also constricted our understanding of issues in terms of depth. Right?
I think that's a really cool observation. because it's so true. Like everything's become compressed hot. Just, you should think like this. And actually you shouldn't think. You should just like,
Believe us.
beat on this drum,
I actually have a contrarian view
Mhm.
on it. Is actually that I think it's far more the choice of the individual to be able to spend their time on the platform. Now, granted, right? Like these platforms are made to be addictive. It's right. So, sometimes they may not even see that they're in the bubble and consuming the information from this, short form medium, right? But the amount of long form conversations that are out there that discuss these different topics that are from reputable, and the amount of different, how many people are just publishing great information around this stuff, and it's just like, it's just, I think it comes down to, but I will say though, what I don't like, which is really tough, and I don't think that this has been solved yet, is that the interest-based algorithm ends up putting people in idea traps where it's okay, it's just based on the things that you're willing to view, right? Or willing to spend time on. So you could be absolutely disgusted with a certain post, but because you're actually viewing it longer, the algorithm's going to show you that more.
It's even worse. Like it actually like automatically tries to determine your weak spots and then like just keeps funneling.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So there's this story about a guy who went berserk, and when they looked at his history of what he was watching on YouTube, like he was just getting more and more content about lizard people and how
Yeah.
lizard people are
man.
everywhere and so
Yeah.
on. Like, I mean, who wouldn't go crazy?
Right.
Yeah.
So recommendation systems, recommendation technology is like one of the original AI algorithms that have gone mainstream in like early 2000s. And it's kind of like the beginning of this AI era.
Yeah.
Like Mark Zuckerberg, his first company was a music recommendation engine.
Yeah, it's interesting how it's evolved from this like TikTok for algorithm
Well,
growing.
the real innovation of TikTok was that rather than wait for the whole thing to end, it would immediately provide feedback, interesting, not interesting.
Mm.
And they actually incorporated this into the recommendation algorithm, right? So the amount of time that would take for you to decide on it would just make it a lot easier to tune the algorithm into what you're interested in. And you can use it for good, you can use it for bad, like what you said earlier. Technology gives us all these opportunities to either be good or bad. At the same time, like there is this broader societal impact, like, and even if I might be perfect at my own choices on how to use AI, I'm still gonna run into a bunch of people who are not necessarily gonna make similar choices, and everyone's life is going to be negatively impacted, right? So to some extent, we have to take responsibility for what's around us, not just for our own actions and our own choices.
And I think I talked to you about this book, The Coming Wave by Mustafa led deep. Now is at Microsoft. And in the book, talks about the and what he mentions is that leaders of technology that are running these big corporations, Google or Microsoft, or the ones that are building AI at a very enterprise and commercial level overall, have a deep responsibility in shaping where it goes and have a deep responsibility in making sure that there's guardrails to make sure it's ethical, right? And so I thought that was interesting, but at the same time, I was like, that is not what's happening. So I'd love to know your input on that. Like, should we be holding those figures accountable? And if so, how?
There is a really fascinating frame. I think the responsible thing is like with fire, right? contain the fire. Don't just expect the fire to you know to do things on its own, right? Like, I think we cannot have a small number of companies be in charge of recommendation systems, right? Like, there is this notion of, say, freedom of impression. Like, we should have the freedom to choose our own filters, not to, you know, not to be subject to whatever a couple of these companies decide as the recommendation algorithm, irrespectively of how responsible they might be. Like, I think it's irresponsible to have this level of centralization. It's just like there is no way that this level of centralization can ever be responsible, except like in a state of emergency or state of war. You know, like societies, right? Like, most of the time we're kind of like free. Right? Like, it's only in an emergency that we really kind of start to behave um, in a command and control fashion. Because if you're not command and control in an emergency or in a war, you're going to lose. But if you're in a command and control mode all the time, something's wrong. And right now, the command and control is coming from the responsible centralized systems. And no, like, we don't really want this.
You also mentioned research, like people who research AI. They also have a responsibility towards making it ethical. And I know you're part of this community, so I'd love to know your opinion on what people who are involved in research AI could do.
I mean, the whole notion of like responsibility is a red herring. I think we want less concentration of power by default. We don't want more centralization with more responsibility. We want more freedom with less centralization. So in a way, like, folks who are talking about responsibility are trying to consolidate control.
Like Animal Farm.
Oh.
Right. Yeah. We're what is it like? We're more equal than others, or whatever. However that
it's
quote
about
goes.
the pig.
Yeah, the pig. Some are more equal than others.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, it's like all of this, like, attempts to, control and regulate. It's really a centralization play. It's like a power grab.
Yeah, because on the surface, right, you could say that that's what your actual intent is, but often, unfortunately, what ends up happening is that those first figures that come up to be those, okay, we're going to be the regulating body within this.
Yep.
Not always are the individuals that actually have the best interest of broader society in mind.
Well,
not always. I mean, of course, yeah, it's on an individual basis. You have to like assess, but yeah.
Power is very attractive to those who seek it. And I think the responsible thing in a society is to prevent excessive centralization of power.
Yeah. And do you think you want more of the same people that have already been dictating where money flows and power is to be the ones also making the new rule book for this next innovation? I mean, I don't know, like, it's a real question. Like, do you want those same individuals with the way that things have been set up currently, where now with the internet, we just know that there's a lot of tomfoolery, for lack of a better term, going on in the government more broadly. It's like, yeah. But then you're just faced with this existential question. Well, who? I think that that's not a very clear answer, unless either one of you have a great answer for that. I have no idea.
The way that we often make sense of the world is looking at past patterns, right?
Yes.
So, like, the most recent one that I can look back to that's similar to the phase that we're going through in society right now is the .com, and how that had been something that society was so afraid of, like it's going to take away jobs, it's going to do this and that, which it did. There was a lot of uncertainty of what that would mean for the world. And we just went ahead anyways. We didn't have laws in place for like how people will act and what this will mean for different businesses and the legal system and all that. We just went ahead with it. And then when things went wrong, drastically wrong, we started creating the laws, right? And I feel like that's what we're doing with AI. But the difference is that with AI, there's a lot more to lose in society versus when the dot-com happened. So it's a valid concern of what are we doing with this technology, right? And because we don't have the legal system around it, and it's hard to create a legal system around something.
Well, I mean, it's the people who are, talking about responsible AI, who are like positioning themselves to
Yeah.
to set the rules around themselves.
It's like, oh yes,
Right.
yes, I am the
What
authority.
benefits them. Yeah.
I think the default response from just like, common citizenry should be, there should not be too much centralization of power.
Well,
Yeah.
well, it's an unfortunate thing, and going back to just like human behavior, usually the individuals in power are the people that are going to be the first movers on things in general, and are going to be sometimes the innovators, right? So, is it part of it too? Is just because that they're wired to go for those. Um, Now, is that a good or bad thing? I kind of think it's all sometimes. Any venture or opportunity or
Yeah.
industry. It's just that I think what citizens, like you, to your point on citizens, can bring now is, okay, well, because the amount of internet sleuths out there that can do tons of research around different individuals, it's like, okay, well, as long as you're not bringing your gang of investors and dollars into this and are going to be writing laws to benefit and line the pockets of everyone else behind you in your animal farm, it's like I think that it's like up to the people in some way to like bring that accountability some way.
There are two ways of thinking about it. The first way is like, here are problems and we need to solve them. But there is another way of thinking about it, which is like, what do we really want?
Hmm.
I mean,
Do we know what
positive
we
vision.
do we know,
Positive vision.
do we know what we really want?
I think if you ask people, they're going to tell you, that,
Yeah.
they want freedom, they want, lower rents, they want, more energy, healthier food. Uh, People do have these visions, right? And then you stop and you look like, are these things that people actually want? Like, what is the economy or the government doing regarding this? Okay,
Yeah.
like, okay, lower rents, like people do want lower rents. But the percentage of money that people are spending on rent and housing has been just like going up and up and up, right? So what is the current power structure doing about this, right?
Hmm.
Well, not much.
Yeah.
In fact, they run things.
Yeah.
So they would know how to solve this problem
Mm-hmm.
because they're insiders, but they're not necessarily.
Well, is it also Occam's razor? Is it the simplest explanation? Maybe it's actually like incompetence. Maybe some of the people that actually make it to those positions of power, in some cases, actually don't really have the knowledge of the levers that they need to pull, or are just generally de-incentivized
Right.
in general, like just not want to fix it real problems.
Not in their benefit
No,
overall
it's not.
to fix.
They're gonna push the things at midterms just before the election, just to make sure that their
Covered.
flag is being is shown in the
Yeah.
best light.
Yeah, I mean, it's an international problem as well, right? I genuinely feel like LLMs and AI, what feeds it is data. when you think about the world that creates data, well, there's a lot of pockets around the world that don't have massive amount of data created because they don't have the technology that the rest of the world uses. So even the models that are created for AI are biased. They don't take account of the whole population, the world, I feel.
But I want models to be biased.
Well,
Biased
that's
towards
a good
truth.
perspective. So why?
Truth, like when you think of it
How
statistically,
do you define
Yeah.
truth?
you want models to be biased towards truth.
How do you define truth?
Truth is the objective reality around us.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
science,
that gets into a philosophical.
science is about
thing.
actually evaluating, things in an objective way to determine what is actually the case.
Mhm.
I'm, like challenge me, right? Like I will tell you how to get to truth when you challenge me with the
Well, I don't think I'm intellectually equipped to be able to challenge you on any given philosophical
You
topic.
absolutely
If I'm being super
Everyone
candid
is.
and honest with you.
Philosophy is just dust, as we discussed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. True philosophy. It's just someone kicking the dust and saying,
Yeah.
"Why can't I see?"
So that's an interesting point. So truth is
yeah.
the world
Objective
around
reality.
you, objective reality. But your objective reality is attached to where you are physically,
On what level
the
of
environment
analysis?
you're surrounded by.
On what level of analysis, right? Because think about it. It's like, well, I can perceive reality in one way, right? We're sitting on these chairs, we have these different things, what have you, but like I'm not able to perceive E-rays that are coming inside, right? Like there are levels to our perception. You don't know what you don't know in and around the nuances of these different it's like these different circles of perception. And it's just like, okay, well, it's like, I guess maybe it's just the average of one's own subjective perceptions.
Which in itself is subjective.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and it's based on like your own experiences and your own even just language, the way like certain languages have like weird freight, like your bucket story, which we'll save for another time. But it's just, yeah, we have weird ways of packaging ideas that we can't necessarily say that everyone has the same tool belt to be able to contextualize the reality of truth.
Yeah, we cannot really avoid having to trust other people. We trust the folks who build this building that it's not going to collapse.
Yeah.
We trust people who give us food that they're not going to poison us.
Yes.
Hope not.
Like we fundamentally have to trust lots and lots and lots of people. And at the end of the day, we're going to have to trust the scientists and the philosophers who try to interpret the objective reality, who are really good at it. But there is a beautiful definition that I like, and it's the reality is that which doesn't go away when you stop believing in it.
One more time.
Reality is that does not go away when you stop believing in it.
Have you ever read Sapiens?
Oh, I hate that.
You hate that book.
Line of thinking. It just
boy.
it's pretentious garbage that it's like some people are like, I'm gonna explain everything to you.
The whole
I mean,
existence
like
of
when
everything.
someone's a journalist, like like what do you know? Like you know lots of things in the actuality, but you're not a philosopher. You have very little to do with actually how AI works. And now you're like trying to interpret the world. I mean, you're a very good talker, but you sorry, but you have no clue. So there are folks who with the power of technology have been successful at getting their ideas out there. And
where's the line between journalist and philosopher?
Philosophers pursuing the deeper truth of like complex abstract ideas, and the journalist is pursuing the present, or like what is happening, who's saying what, what has actually happened. So you're right that they're kind of similar, but one is pursuing the present, the sensing aspect, and the other one's pursuing the deep, which is the intuitive aspect.
I guess what I'm trying to get towards is like, can you say that like every journalist is not a philosopher, or is it like can
no,
can a
I was
journalist?
specifically talking
Maybe
about,
I'm just drilling
I
too
was
deeply
specifically
into this.
talking about that particular one.
Yes, of course. Yes, you
Well,
have quite a
I
question.
don't know.
Yes.
I would say, do you think philosophy is pursuing truth or understanding? And everyone, depending on, again, their understanding of the world, will form a different perspective of what truth is.
Wait, actually, can I? So just so I understand the question
Yeah.
better, can you define a couple of those terms that you use?
Yeah.
Like,
So for example, what's true to me may not be true to you
of course.
and may not be true to him, but you guys might have a different understanding of what the truth is related to that one specific topic or
How do you define understanding?
perspective,
Okay.
as you relate it to your own experiences and the patterns that you've observed in your reality of the world.
Yeah, but sorry to.
No, that's good.
The objective reality is sometimes hard to see directly from any individual perspective. Like this looks like a circle to you. It doesn't look like a circle to him,
Mm-mm.
but it's the same thing. But when you rotate it around, right, then you see the complexity of it.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, this is kind of what philosophy is. It's basically showing a particular thing from several different perspectives so that people understand that, like your current perspective is different from his, but it's the same object.
Yeah, but then his truth is no less the truth than mine, right?
It's your truth, it's his truth, but it's not the complete truth.
Yeah.
This is the complete truth. This is just a perspective on that truth.
It's the same thing that I said earlier, which is just like the layers of perception. I think of like the greatest philosophers and individuals almost like use their levels of perception as like an instrument, like where you're playing like a piano and you're hitting like these different chords and these different things, right? But then sometimes you just like need to take the piano and just blow it up. Or like, well, it's just every level of perception. What's every possible like dimensional outcome that could come here, right? Like maybe the keys are like sticky in one reality. Maybe the keys are like inverted colors, or they're just a rainbow. Like I don't know.
Well, people do like to be stimulated on many levels at once. So,
and whether or not that person can actually perceive and parse out those different individual stimuli, like of perception, like for example, why people use drugs, why people use, there's a chemical flow that comes in and is able to do a lot of different things in your brain.
Well, and earlier, we were talking about like reading and what's going to happen to it. Well, like reading means being there in front of like a white page with some black symbols. Okay, like I think this is an opportunity to rethink what is really reading. Reading is basically a connection of minds. Like the author who had a vision and a reader who wants to tap into that vision. And currently, this interface is basically a white sheet of paper with some characters. Like, this could be so much richer.
And may I mention as well, society, most of the time, we're not able to read. Like just, I mean, when you really think about it, right? Like our whole entire civilization, like granted, it led to a lot of revolution, and innovation, right? To be able to transfer ideas via this vehicle.
Yeah, like in the really old days, people drew hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
And they communicated by hieroglyphs. But hieroglyphs were kind of like tedious to draw and to learn. Okay, so letters have been developed, for this purpose of communication. Now you look at what the kids are doing. Are they using letters? No, they're using emojis, because emojis give you a greater degree of stimulation, but also a greater bandwidth. Like you communicate more things faster.
Well, actually, and it even goes back to that point of levels of percept or like one's own subjective truth, right? Because sometimes I'll see people use the upside down smiley. Usually, how I interpret that is like, oh shit, well, I'm in this situation now, or
Yeah.
that kind of thing, right? Or begrudgingly doing something, or like, hey, we're just gonna smile through it.
Yeah.
Some people just use that as like a smile emoji, upside down, and it's just how do you interpret your own
Yeah.
subjective
There are
reality?
different languages of emoji.
I
That's
think
it. Yeah.
you brought up a good point on like using emojis as communication, right? And it brought me back to like how human beings communicate more through their body language and their facial expressions than they may with words. Um, and like this is why when someone, I myself was in Italy and I didn't know a word of Italian. I ended up coming out of the bus at like 9:30 p.m. trying to find a camping ground, and I was by myself. And I was like, "This is a bad situation." Um, and then there was an Italian guy walking his dog, and he didn't know a word of English. I didn't know a word of Italian, and we were still able to communicate just with our hands and our expressions. And I spoke in English, and he responded in Italian. No clue what he said, but somehow I understood that he's asking me to follow him and he's going to show me where the campground is. I do not recommend people follow strangers, by the way, but it just goes to show that our communication is so complex as humans that it goes beyond being able to write words. So, emojis for that reason, I think, are so powerful because, again, it shows supposed to resemble images.
I mean, if you take 1 minute, right, you're going to get more information in 1 minute on social media than by reading a sheet of paper with some characters on. And I'm not like,
Oh,
I'm
I
not
see. Yeah, so
advocating,
yeah,
I'm not
I get that.
advocating that we stop reading. I'm really not
Mm,
advocating that we forget all these really carefully thought through ideas that, are printed as words on paper. I think they're super important and a much higher quality source of information than social media. But I think we should think on how to deliver information that's high quality in the most efficient possible way to people, because then they're going to be more likely to engage with it. Right? Like we're still kind of stuck. Like, one of the greatest ironies of 2025 is that, the latest AI technology has an interface of a 1950s text terminal
yes.
chatbot. We could be drawing pictures and interacting with this technology in a far higher bandwidth way than we do at the moment.
So Neuralink.
Neuralink is kind of invasive.
Neuralink,
I-
Meta glasses. I need my AR. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, it's something like that.
Apple Vision Pro is fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it's all about filtering the
Yeah.
information that's thrown at you too, right? Is each one of us cares about different things in terms of what our interests are. So social media has been a great medium of filtering out and still getting the information that we don't deeply care about and still being aware of those things, but then being able to use books or being able to use documentaries, things like that to go in depth about the things that you care about. Um, Whereas, like before social media, it's just you were unaware of anything else other than the few things that you cared about to go in depth with. So I think that's the difference. Like we're more aware of maybe a broader picture, but are able to go more in depth about things that we do care about.
Well, but here is an interesting question that you asked earlier, which is like, what is like, what are new bodies of work or new literary projects that have gotten into like the public mainstream,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think this is like an interesting question, and there are two answers to it. The first answer is that we've become so fragmented in our own little interests that very few pieces of culture get like mainstream adoption. That's number one. Number two is that we've lost the ecosystem of curation that launched new movies and new books. Like we've lost it. We've lost it. That's why there's so many more sequels.
Yeah.
And
remakes.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
because new products are just harder to launch. Like on one hand, technology makes new products easier than ever, but you know the
Actually,
marketing is harder than ever.
I would
Hmm.
say I would actually challenge that.
Hmm.
I think that there are so many creative projects being put out, but it's just more so being developed by individual creators or small teams of creators on platforms like YouTube that are hitting the interest-based algorithm. And yes, like they're not hitting broader knowledge, but they're hitting a more targeted audience that's going to far more likely to engage with it and really
Targeted,
care
yeah.
about it. And it's hitting these individuals, at least in the medium of social, right? But I think more broadly, I definitely agree that launching a book or a movie or something, I mean, you're just at the behest also the algorithm of Netflix now. That's a thing in these different streaming platforms, which unfortunately have devolved into basically mirroring the same model that we've been having with television. Um, Unfortunately, that's a whole other rant, but
But there is an interesting phenomenon, right? Like, like it used to be that there were many television stations, local television stations. Um, there
The
were
antenna.
there were thousands
Yeah.
of editors who could like pick something, right? And Netflix is just like one. There's like someone who's the chief content officer of Netflix who decides, who has the power to basically start or stop anything. And
Mhm.
I think the problem is when you have someone like that with disproportionate power, irrespective of their responsibility and well-meaning attitude and so on. We just don't want this level of centralization.
Mhm.
It's part of one of the many reasons why I love YouTube. I'm a big
Yeah.
YouTube fan.
I do love YouTube.
It's the best.
But like,
Yeah.
here's another thing.
Mhm.
YouTube, there's just so much content now on YouTube, right? It's like we're also just, again, filtering on the few things that we care about and then missing all the rest that could be amazing content as well, but we just don't know to even look for it.
Yeah.
Um,
Again,
yeah.
the great irony of 2025 is we've got this latest technology that could like draw maps of all content, that could like create galaxies that we could navigate and discover things.
Yeah.
No, we get a list of 10 search results.
Yep.
A list.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it could be a universe. Like
And-
there are visualizations that would show you universes of new works and new music and new
Mhm.
ideas and new poetry, and no, you just get like
You get your
top 10.
algorithm.
This is trending. Look at this.
There's a book I love is Storytelling with Data. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Nope.
I gotta send you the PDF. But it just talks about like how do you tell a compelling story with numbers, and I think like it reminds me a lot of what you're working on as well, with data flowers and just the way that you think and contextualize problems. It's just and to the earlier point that we were making about like levels of perception and just the different realities that we could be living in. It's like, well, one person could really like it be set up this way. It's set up in a galaxy, right? It
Mhm.
could be, I don't know, a set of dominoes that fall over, and it's just like each piece is like another piece of content or something. It just like kind of it's a big mess that you burst through. I don't know, like
Yeah.
whatever. Like it, people will tend to prioritize efficiency, right? And I think that what all these platforms have optimized for, to your on the lists, is just what's going to drive the most time and eyeballs and keeping people on the platform. And unfortunately, that it's devolved into that. So I think it's like people yearn for that. But I think what ends up happening is that like how people spend their time ends up unfortunately skewing to what's been hyper optimized to keep there.
That's one aspect, and the other aspect is like we're in real life, right? Like, we trust other people to guide us. You get a tour guide, you get a tour book. You go to a restaurant and you order omakase, like whatever the chef is going to serve you, right? Like we trust other people to guide us, and online, like this most important job of like trusting someone becomes an algorithm. An algorithm that's not even intelligent. It's just trying to optimize the amount of time your eyeballs are going to bleed into the ads that are going to roll. Like, don't trust these algorithms. Like that's the worst thing to do, is to trust algorithms. Like instead, you want to trust maps that people lovingly made, that guide you through things to discover.
So then, should we not trust content created by AI, because that's an algorithm?
I mean, AI just like blabbers, right? Like
Right.
you put something and it's just gonna blabber forever. But like AI is a tool. It's a tool that is used by other people with agency, create things. Like so there is always a creator behind anything. So the creators are leveraging AI. I think it's great that they're using AI, but like we shouldn't blame it on AI. We should blame it on the creator.
Agreed. I think because AI takes the inputs of these creators and creates the output, right? And that goes for any, which is why, pivoting a little bit, I think it's bizarre when you see all these layoffs happening in the various big corporations, because, the so-called headline is that AI is going to replace these, and that's what they're preparing for, and they're investing that money saved from letting these humans go into AI infrastructure. But to your point, it's like the output of an AI is only as good as the input, and the input is going to be fed by creative people, creative humans who understand complex systems, complex, right? So I just never understood it. Instead of empowering people to be able to use AI, they're thinking that it's just somehow going to take over all these jobs. And I think that's bizarre and really convoluted, in my opinion. But I'd love to hear your opinion.
I think as sure, like I don't think it's actually gonna take jobs outright per se. Well, I'll go back on that. I'll say this. I think that people that utilize it become more efficient at what they do.
Yeah.
That it takes less time, right?
Yeah.
So people that don't adopt it and don't use that tool will automatically become worse employees in general.
Are we there yet? I don't think we're there yet.
I think I mean, it was.
Yeah.
I think that is a very the more macro a problem, the more skeptical I am to try to have any sort of like one lane answer on it, because it's like, do you know how many factors go into macroeconomic? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you could come up with
Yeah.
whatever numbers to look at from different economic reports and just like different things.
Yeah.
It's just much to be able to like isolate it into one thing. So generally speaking, people are more efficient with using AI.
Mm-hmm.
And people that use it more are probably going to be better at their job. That's how the way I think about it. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
people that don't are probably going to get let go.
I agree, but shouldn't there be a change management system going on in these organizations?
That's a great question.
that actually teach people how to use AI within their in their roles.
I think it's up to the agility of the company and if they're actually ready and willing to open their eyes to that, which many aren't on many innovation. I'm curious what.
Like I'm kind of curious about how big companies have been affected by the AI technology. From my perspective as developer of this technology, it's interesting how technology gets oversold. It's sold as artificial intelligence. It's not sold as the copy paste from the creative works of humanity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's sold as like, hey, this thing is actually intelligent. Well, no, it's just copy pasting what other people did before, with a little bit of interpolation here and there, right? So I think when it's sold in almost a malicious, manipulative way, there is going to be negative impact. And some companies are just very good at making outrageous claims.
Yeah.
Like there's a kind of a strange kind of race to the bottom, right? Like if I say like, hey, give me $10 million and I'm going to make you this like beautiful software for making maps, you're going to be like, okay, maybe. If I tell you like, give me $10 billion and I'm going to make the artificial super intelligence, then people get, oh, artificial super intelligence. So basically the folks who are complete snake oil salesmen, snake oil does actually work. Okay, so like,
does it?
But artificial super intelligence, like in a box? No, we are the artificial super intelligence.
Snake oil is what I'm being said. Like really, it works. Like
so folks who make this outrageous claims, who make that sound like stories that sound far better than they can ever possibly be, get the resources, and then they get the platform, and then they blabber even more than anyone else, and like the whole society kind of like is trying to like figure it out. Like if there is one thing that's like defining the world's leadership, is their addiction to attention.
Yes.
And their desire to get attention with acts that are frivolous.
Frivolous. Define frivolous. Like because this is my world, right? Like, Gary, as I was working with him, right, he came out with this book called Day Trading Attention, right? There are moves that are done on the surface. Now, I'm not saying this is everyone, but there are moves that are done on the surface that may seem like why are they doing that, right? But there are very complex systems of logic that go into, okay, well, we're gonna do X at this timing of this thing in this market, and yes, it may seem like no bad press, or bad press is never negative. You know how the saying goes. It's just it's sometimes it's just like how do you deploy the least amount of effort and resources to garnering the most amount of.
Well, getting attention is a skill, and it can be used for good or for bad.
Yeah.
I agree. Like there are people who are skillfully going to use the instrument of attention. But to what end? What is their game plan? What are going to be the consequences of their actions? Right. So in the context of the artificial superintelligence, it's a red herring, and they're going to get a lot of the resources that would otherwise have gone to potentially more productive endeavors.
In a free speech society, can you actually limit can you control that? Someone's intentions behind being able to garner attention? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that something you can actually like even throttle?
Yeah, we
in this
don't
framework?
necessarily want to have like a centralized way of throttling this. Okay, but what we do potentially want is data infrastructure that's gonna, give us a track record of someone's statements.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we create this information infrastructure, right, that's gonna allow us to better navigate statements by people with questionable integrity, everyone's going to be better off, and um, it's going to be an incentive towards beneficial actions, for the benefit of the system, contrary to like selfish actions, for the benefit of an individual.
So when you're saying is when we lay it all out there for everyone to see, all the receipts of everything that we have said, then there's a lot more of accountability as far as like what actions and things that you say, that you'll say.
Or even budgeting, how much attention has someone taken and what came of it.
Our producer John. You're talking about like, you know what? I feel like that this is just. I just feel like there's more to talk about around this. Maybe is like, well, first actually, maybe we can reframe the conversation as just, you and I are both like looking for our next full-time gig.
Yes.
Currently,
Yes,
interesting time to be looking for
Yeah.
something,
I'd love to hear about your experience looking for something.
Well, it's fascinating to hear like about and I didn't even know that this was a thing, but other people had to tell me, is that people are using AIs to live listen to the interviews and then give the right answer that you're supposed to say to the interviewer.
Oh.
Yeah, they'll use a second screen or some sort of thing, and like interviewers will have to like ask like, are you using an AI right now?
Yeah.
Because they'll know like the way that they speak sounds like an AI. What level of this is? I mean, it's just when I first heard that was insane.
I've also heard that people go into interviews and it's not them going into interviews, it's because it's a Zoom interview, right? They can just send like their bot and it's just a
Well, I mean,
clone
why
of
why
them.
not? Because the
Right.
other side's got a bot too. Just let them work it out, you know?
That's a
Yeah.
fair
It's like
point.
bots talking to bots.
Oh
Yeah.
But
man.
this is what's happening. Like, we've had institutions, right, that
Yeah.
were designed for people, and now, we've got bots that kind of like come in through the same door
Mm-hmm.
and break things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think part of the reason why hiring is kind of strange right now is you can't actually trust anyone because like there's so much fakery and botting around.
There is, yeah. And also, like, I actually talked to two recruiters at a company at one of the events I was attending in Boston, and I asked them about their experience in recruiting right now. And they're like, yeah, we get like thousands of applications, and we're using and developing AI systems to help us with these applications. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, so it's just AI working with AI at this point because
Yeah.
all the resumes that are going into them are all formatted and ATS approved on all these platforms where they optimize their resumes, right? And I almost have a feeling like we're gonna go back to like the human connection where it's like, I don't want an ATS optimized resume that's exactly matched to the job description because it doesn't really tell you what the person brings to the table. Like, a person is so much more than their resume, right?
Mhm.
And we're complex people and have different interests. So I almost have a feeling like we're going to go back to that human connection when it comes to recruiting and stuff because of this AI versus AI at this point.
Well, I think like companies are still human.
Yeah.
Like it. I don't think that that's ever. I mean, like I saw this in Web3 space. I mean, yes, like this is a hot take, but I never could get behind the concept of, or at least how many people perceived DAOs, decentralized autonomous organization. Uh, so many people were like, yeah, it's gonna make all these decisions and it's gonna
Yeah.
like order our finances and it's gonna like, make hiring and firing decisions and stuff. And it's just like, how the hell is it gonna do that?
Yeah.
Like it's people that
Well,
run stuff. Like
it's actually not that hard, but it's not very good,
that, right. Yeah, you could set
and it's
up
super
a
brittle.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
And I think the whole economy is going to go through a learning phase where they're going to realize, like, whoa, just like trying to replace people with AI is such a royally bad idea.
mm,
Instead, what we want is we want to give AI to people to be more human.
Mm-hmm.
Like AI can make people better humans. Not make humans better machines.
mhm.
Yeah.
Like so much of our work is basically trying to be machines when we
Yep.
really want to be humans. And AI finally like flips it around and actually like allows machines to help us become better
Yeah.
humans.
There was something that Sam Altman published recently. I don't know how recent, but it was he broke down how different age groups used OpenAI.
Yes, I did see this.
Yes,
Yes.
where it was older people used it as like a Google search.
Mm-hmm.
Like people in their like millennia,
Mm-hmm.
like in their 20s, used it as like a therapist.
Like advisor.
Yeah, or like
Yeah.
are people that yeah. And then the youngest people used complex AI agent
It's
chains
their operator.
to as their OS essentially, which is really interesting. I
Yeah.
don't know. I just wanted to share that and get thoughts. Like, do you have any
Yeah, I mean,
knee
I think
jerk
it's really
reaction?
interesting, and it's really interesting to see the adoption of AI within the younger generation. I think to take it a step further, I think this is what corporations need to think about, right? It's like AI is not just your advisor, it's not just a replacement for Google. Like, think about the applications of AI from an operating standpoint. It can help you automate a lot of these manual tasks that happen, right? I was speaking to a sales guy, just a sales friend of mine last week, and he's like, he's in the partnerships world, and his job is building relationships with people and selling, right? And he was saying he spends most of his time doing manual work. Like most of his time is spent doing manual work. A very small part of his time is actually spent doing strategic work. And I think where AI really brings in value is automating that manual work.
Mhm.
And I think there's amazing platforms like N8N, which I've been experimenting on, and then that actually operate a lot of these aspects of, well, I'm in the go-to-market space, so like go-to-market,
Yeah.
right? Like, and actually, Alex, we were talking about an article by Clay where they created a go-to-market engineer role. And it's a brand new role that Clay kind of coined the term. And when you go look into it, their definition of go-to-market is outbound sales.
Huh.
It's like, let's simplify the AEs and the RevOps team and make it so that Clay's doing it. Whereas like go-to-market is so much more complex than that. Like you have so many different teams from finance to sales strategy to legal, all working together to make sure that a product is able to go to market successfully. So there's dangers in roles being created with the intent is right, but the understanding of the underlying complexities of systems and data and processes within enterprise spaces is they just don't understand it, right?
Well, I
So,
mean, one of the things that's happening is who has budgets to actually write and create content, right? Like
yeah.
it kind of comes down to PR, you know. So
Yes.
for example, like the article that you mentioned, like I heard from friends like, hey, you know, there's this like you know, go-to-market engineer. It's like an emerging you know, job description. I had no idea it's a product of a PR team
Yeah.
working for a supplier,
Yeah.
right? Like it's incredible how impoverished the, you know, the publishing ecosystem has become over the past 2 decades, in part because of AI taking over the editorial.
Yeah. The power of PR,
Hmm.
I would say. But yeah, I'd love to learn because like you've been in the sales and operations field. Like, how do you view AI and being incorporated in those aspects?
I mean, I think, look, like, just so I can be clear on the landscape that we're discussing here, it's like you mentioned PR and content, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
in what I mean, look, like I come from the world of Gary and you know, I mean, he pushes people to make 60 plus pieces of content themselves a day.
Wow.
Which there's actually a very streamlined way to do that
Yeah.
as solo, not using AI. This is pre-AI, this whole system. You know, having pillar content, uh, being able to take from it clips and being, you know, parsing it all down.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, if you're efficient and know what you're doing with the editing, I mean, you can throw something together. You know, he Gary now. I mean, he's at I think he's over 10 million on Instagram, about 15 to 20 on TikTok.
I'll have to follow him.
Yeah, no, and he
Yeah.
talks about a lot of these different things in marketing, and you know, I got to see firsthand, and it's just for years he built his brand, uh, just him, like
Mm.
just putting out this content, building that team. Now he has a team of over 30 people, just doing the content stuff, um, around his own personal
So
brand.
it's like 30 people each producing 60 pieces of content per day.
No, not quite, not quite. It's more like you know, video shooters and editors
Yeah.
and platform strategists and channel managers, you know,
Yep.
all the different things, which I'd be happy to. Yeah, I mean, look, I think like it makes, of course, right. I think a lot of the conversation actually what has been interesting, a little tangential, but I think it's important to mention is just the ability for the quality of one's prompt is actually
Oh
like one of
man.
the most
Yes.
important things. And running that through, even just a simple like, you're a world
Yeah.
class prompt engineer.
Mm.
Rate my prompt and provide edits in the summer, you know, on a new draft.
Mm-hmm.
Is just running it through that once gives you such a better
Yeah.
results. It's insane to me.
Yeah, once you master prompt engineering, then you have to master context engineering.
Oof.
Oh, tell us more.
Uh, basically what an LLM is doing, it takes the context, takes the prompt, and then just passes it through this large language model.
Mm-hmm.
So context is basically all the relevant information that the prompt's going to be acting on, right? And right now, if you're just relying on the AI to magically put together the right context for your prompt, it's not going to do nearly as well as when you actually take ownership for the context.
Yeah.
And you kind of load up the right things in the context before you execute the prompt.
Yeah.
But what if I just say it's a world-class context expert? And then
Yeah.
no, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
but yes.
I used Cursor to be able to download N8N locally on a Docker. I'm not technical by any means, but combination of Gemini, ChatGPT, and stuff. And to your point, when you don't have the context, you're just going in loops and loops and loops, and you end up spending more time using AI to set something up than you would have otherwise, right? I completely the context that I had to provide is like, hey, I'm using the local version of it, not the cloud version. I'm using this particular instance of it, instead of just being like, hey, you're an N8N advisor, help me with this problem. I don't know if that's what you mean by context, but
context is a pretty specific term.
Okay.
Basically, it's whatever's loaded into the LLM before the prompt. So, for example, like the way it works is you put in a question, and then what the LLM is going to do is going to process what is relevant information that should be loaded, and it's going to do a web search and find a couple of pages and select the pieces of those pages that are relevant to your question, and then put them into the context, and then execute your prompt, right? Like, this is how these things work when you know how they're built. The thing is, like, rather than just rely on the say ChatGPT engine for doing these things, you can just like do that by yourself and then pass the LLM over it. So a lot of the reasons why, say, Cursor works well is that they transform the code into something that the LLM can actually synthesize code with. Like, not, say, 1 gigabyte of source code. 1 gigabyte of source code is not going to give you anything useful. You transform that 1 gigabyte of source code into, a context, along with like documentation and best practices and, system prompt and so on. And then you go and you execute, like, okay, make this code that does that.
So have you been incorporating these things, like, obviously you've been in the space for into data flowers, and what are you doing with data flowers?
Well, data flowers is addressing a really important problem, which is how does intelligence connect with reality? It almost seems philosophical, but it's not, right? Because there is a very simple answer. Like, all of these AIs and all of us connect with reality through the web, through websites, through content, on. But like, AI doesn't really have the ability to determine if something's trustworthy or not trustworthy. There's a lot of expired information, there's like fraudulent information, there's fake information, there is fiction, right? And the AI just generates text from text. So the web is not a very good source of data to answer questions against. We need something much better. And Data Flower's mission is to create this foundation layer of the data that connects intelligence to reality. Okay, so of course we're not going to do everything at once, but like, we can go and just elevate the quality of data on particular topics. And we can even do this specifically when someone's like interested, like, okay, I have this particular type of problem, I would like to be using AI with this problem. So what is relevant data? How should it be organized? How should it be processed? So in AI companies, there are teams that do the so-called pre-training.
Yeah.
And but any company is going to need its own team that's in charge of the data, that is then going to feed the AI models, right? So this expertise is kind of missing in many ways. It's just like you just put documents in and then like magically it's going to work. Well, no, like data needs to be checked, needs to be structured, needs to be um, uh, processed, verified. Like there are all these processing steps that transform, the huge amounts of data that we as individuals and companies are dealing with, to make them a solid foundation for the AI to run on top of.
Uh-huh.
And of course, the other thing that we do is we go from these textual interfaces to visual interfaces, from textual data to visual data. Because when you go visual, you increase the bandwidth between the human mind and the computer by 1 or 2 orders of magnitude.
That's incredible. Wow, I didn't know that. So cool. Well, I would definitely like to. I know you showed me the visual of it, and it looked really, really like well thought out and well laid out, because I've never seen data organized that way. It's always like all over the place, especially from finance days. I'm used to it being unclean, and I was the one cleaning it up and figuring out, oh, this doesn't look right. Let me look into it, right? So I think what Data Flowers is doing is really, really important.
I mean, it's interesting. It's a team of computer scientists and architects like William and Jonas. Like, it turns out that when you're developing new technology, sometimes people who come from the outside of the field will understand it in a new way. Whereas, like inside the field, everyone's kind of stuck using the same type of diagrams, the same approaches to visual communication.
Yeah.
So, we're trying to rethink the interface between our minds and data.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Have you been able to see what it looks like? Have you seen the demo?
Yeah, we've been discussing, potentially working together on it. But I mean, I think, yeah, it's been really fascinating to learn more about it. I think the potential is so there, and I think that it's really compelling. It's just that what good info in, good info out, right? Like we talked about before.
But one thing that I'm going to share a stat that I don't think I've ever shared on video before. Back in 2020, we created a data dashboard for a European country that had high quality COVID data. That dashboard became the #1 search term on Google in the whole country in the whole year. We had like 50% of the population using us regularly. Okay, but then I was wondering, so what are other keywords? So #2 was weather, which is data. And #3 was a particular sport, which is data. People were looking for data. Like the top 3 searches on Google were searches for data. Like people want data.
Yeah.
They don't want stories. They don't want opinions about reality. They actually want data. Like when the data is properly presented and high quality, it's like the best thing.
Data that makes sense.
Like it used to be that people would search for, I don't know, like objects. But like online, people are looking for data. So, I think we should be, giving them data rather than the old thing.
It's the most
like
guarded commodity too.
Mm.
So, I mean, if you look at all these big corporations, what are they guarding preciously? Their data.
Well, I mean, they need to, right? Like, it's kind of naive to just talk about, data should be free. Well, no, it should not be free. It should really be properly private. Why? Because if it's not private, then whoever is the biggest, baddest gorilla is just going to see everything.
Yeah.
Like to have an actual free market, you need to have privacy. The entrepreneurs need to be able to hide their secret sauce.
No, you know, as you were saying that, I thought about like relationships and the type of relationships that we have throughout our lives, like whether it be friendships or your parents or your siblings, and each relationship is so different, right? You show a different part of you to each relationship, and they bring out the different part of you, and that's how we kind of, that's our relationship with data too. It's like depending on what platform, what company we're interacting with, we're showing a different side of us, sharing a different part of us, right? And if someone had access to all of that, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, say in healthcare, you know, uh, we have these problems, like, you know, because like they're trying to protect our data.
Yeah.
They're not actually trying to protect our data. Um, if they really cared about us, they would just give us our data.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you've got like this, you know, doctors' offices or hospitals that are protecting the patient's data by not actually sharing it with other doctors, that prevent you from going from one doctor to another,
It's a
from
business.
going from one hospital to another, like under the pretense of privacy and data protection. It's just incumbent protection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So like the way that we think about data privacy um, is typically off. You know, instead we should be thinking about data sovereignty. Like my data should be under my control.
Yes.
Not like someone's trying to protect my privacy. No, I'll protect my own privacy. Just give me that data because it belongs to me, not to you.
Yeah. Um, well, I think at the end of the day, our whole conversation kind of comes down to data too, because AI is all about data as well. The ins and outs in the world is data. So I think great that
Our own subjective truths
our
are
own,
just a
yeah.
byproduct of our data set.
Well,
Yes.
like I have these political
You know,
debates with friends, right? And
yeah,
some,
it's
you
like,
know, like we don't always agree, right? But we still respect ourselves. You know, like I have friends who are communists, I have friends who are libertarians, I have friends who are, um, you know, like monarchists, whatever.
Hmm.
And everyone has a slightly different data set. Like some people have experienced things that I didn't experience, right?
Yeah.
And you know, and their political views are shaped by the data they've collected in their lives. And when we have a debate, we compare this thing, and we can do it respectfully. Okay, like
rare, very
everyone,
It
rare.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
everyone's like seen other things. Like I don't know, I've you know, I've actually lived under communism, right? So I
Yeah.
like to think I have some data about that.
Yeah.
Many people, you know, have only kind of seen, you know, kind of like living under, you know, a capitalist oligarchy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I understand, you know, they don't like it. I don't like it either. You know, is communism going to solve it? Well, maybe for a bit, and then it's going to get a lot worse than it was under a capitalist, you
Yeah.
know, oligarchy. So
I just personally want my government assigned peanut belly. That's what I want. My rations. That's really what I'm.
That's what's important to
You-
you.
That's it. Yes, that's
this
really
is really
the end of the
selfish.
and
This is really selfish of you.
yeah,
This is for the sick and the elderly. You should be eating rubber.
that's right. Oh,
Oh,
so sorry,
man.
so sorry. Oh,
Ugh.
oh, dictator overlord. Oh no.
Well, this
How
was a
fun.
great conversation. I'm so glad we had it, guys.
This
And
is great.
I've learned a lot from both of you, and thank you for sharing the space with me. Glad we were able to share the space together.
Awesome.
Sure, I'll start. Great. Kunal, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Kunal Patel, and look forward to connecting and continuing conversations like this if what interests.
Alex Jacqueline, and the website is really easy. It's data.flowers.
I'm Nick. You can find me across socials. My Instagram is Nander, Nander.eth. You can find me on Nick Anderson, Nick on LinkedIn if you can find me, because there's so many Nick Andersons on LinkedIn. So I suggest that you type in Shipyard or VaynerX or so on and so forth to try and find it. Other than that, yeah, I help founders share their stories. So if you're interested in sharing authentically who you are with the world through the lens of what you're building and passionate about, I help that. So, and with that, this has been an Aethos production, and yeah, pass it to John.
Awesome.
Yeah.